We talked about some business owners in Burien who are so frustrated with the illegal homeless camps on their property that they're now paying a private group to clear out some of those tents. The owner of the property that houses the grocery outlet and the Dollar Tree hired the company called The More We Love to help out. And now the City of Burien is considering using the group to help address the crisis too, but not everyone on the council is on board. Gee, you had some questions about this particular group, so we have invited Kristine Moreland, who is the founder and director of The More We Love, to join us, and she is now on the phone. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on. So tell us about your group and what has your history been in terms of working with this homelessness crisis?
Great. So my name is Kristine Moreland, and I am business partners with Christopher. We run this nonprofit in terms of coming out and doing outreach, real intentional work. I've been in this field for about 20 years. I served alongside Seattle's Union Gospel Mission with their outreach programs, and so I'm pretty well versed in the encampment world, if you will.
Okay, so you worked with Union Gospel Mission. Tell us how you've been working and what kind of success you've had.
Yeah, beautiful. So we were, as you said, we were called in by a private, the private owner to come in and compassionately work with the humans that are on this encampment. What we like to do is make sure that we're really intentional with our time and our resources. So Chris and I walked alongside each human. We start with doing an intake, and when we do that, we understand what their full narrative, their story is, so that we can really be intentional about placement. And once we understand their story and their needs, we begin to work pretty quickly on the detox, long-term mental health programs, housing placement, support, and then redirect them back to family members if that's something that they want as well. And that's what we've been doing alongside this encampment. We successfully were able to clear it about a week ago, actually, and it took us less than 30 days to make all these connections, which is great.
I think that is great, and I want to just get right to it. The $515 to do this for one person, and or a $20,000, or just shy of $20,000 for 40, I think that is a great deal. But what is it that...
I was going to say that's a lowball deal in my opinion. But, truthfully, when those prices were put out there, it's just something we Googled. This is our first private hire. Everything else I've ever done has been volunteer-based, walking alongside other organizations, providing them with the knowledge that I know and being really intentional with that. So, everybody wants to throw these numbers around like, oh, they hired for this, they did that. What they did is they hired us for the purpose of helping these humans, and the price was exactly what it should have been. And now I believe we're worth far more than that.
Okay. What is it that you are able to do because it sounds great. And what is it that you're able to do that our city and local government aren't doing?
I'm allowed to be able to remove all the bureaucracy from this, right? I don't have to work within all the red tapes and all the boundaries. I get to be really intentional with my time, and I get to understand a human story, and I get to lead with my compassion and my understanding that we are truly working within an epidemic situation right now, right? Like the face of homelessness is very different today than it was 5 years ago. If King County doesn't adjust their strategic plan, they're going to find this is going to be worse 5 years from now. And so we have to adjust the way that we are serving this community, and it just needs to be different with the right people.
Kristine, can you give us an example of the red tape? Like, give us a specific example of,
Can I ever? Yeah, I sure can. I'm going to give you a specific story that took place. We had two people in the encampment that were ready to go to accept services, and those services were within the enhanced shelters. And that day that we called to place them in the enhanced shelters, we were told that the King County Regional Homeless Authority was actually holding those beds because they had some sweeps going on. And when those sweeps are done, they would go ahead and release the beds. Well, they did. The next day, they released the beds because in their sweeps, they were not successful in connecting those humans to services. And so what happened was I go back the next morning to let my people know, you know what, we've got services now, and they were done. They were gone. And so we're doing it's a broker system right now. We're brokering beds for convenience, and that's just not how we do it. We need an open door policy that serves people's immediate needs, and especially detox. Let me be clear.
Okay, and Kristine, you said there was an interview that you did with Cairo 7 TV, and you said there are services available, there is shelter available.
Yeah.
Can you explain that? So because we keep hearing that there is no shelter available or there's not enough, and you're saying you're able to find it. How many people have you gotten off the streets?
Well, I mean, in my entire career, that would be hard to say.
No.
And
I'm talking about
don't
just
usually do it by measurables, but yeah, in this encampment area and such, it's been about 13 total tents. And I think people are misguided when they say, oh, well, I saw this, she said she got him into services, but I saw them again, down the street. The reality is these guys go into services, but their community base is still where those encampments were. So we have to continue care and walk alongside them to prevent them from being back in those type of communities and give them new communities. I do that with partnerships like Valley City. It's our detox facility. I call them first thing in the morning. They tell me how many beds they have, and I am determined to fill them because I know there's humans out there that need detox. From there, before their feet hit the street after that 7-day detox, we are immediately connecting them to a mental health support program. That's 28 days, and that's anywhere from Lacey all the way to Spokane. I know the narrative is there's no services in our back door, but we have whole states use it. They allow people to travel. I mean, Greyhound's there. There's ways for us to do this. We just can't keep looking on, what's quickest, I guess. We have to do the real work, and that's what I do.
Well, I love that you are doing the real work. The one thing I just want to make sure, because one of the things that you said that one of the narratives is that we're always constantly saying there's just not enough. There's not enough. Here locally in King County and specifically, where are there areas? What are we missing? Because we talk about this all the time. I want to just see where are we missing at that we're not getting the services that you are talking about, and unless you are talking about
barriers. It's the red tape barriers, right? So there's King County programs that are only allowed to place people in certain areas. Right? There's all of these. So for another example, right? There's a particular organization, and they are only allowed to place in certain areas, right? You have to be zip code specific. So if you're not from XYZ place, you don't qualify for this shelter. The demographics, those provide barriers. There's a lot of demographical barriers. Like if you're not XYZ color, shape, that prevents you from getting in a shelter. So imagine that if we just open up the shelter beds and we made them accessible, we would have it. We would be able to place people. But there's too many barriers, so much red tape, and too many organizations involved, to be quite frank, and everybody working in silo. That makes it incredibly difficult when we're working against each other and not working in conjunction like, all the teams should be. It's a human crisis.
It is a human crisis, and it is frustrating because it seems like there's a lot of finger pointing and a lot of,
Very
we can't do
so.
it here. So you are trying to...
That's disappointing. That's a time waster. When people are pointing fingers and saying, why can't you do? We need to. Get up and, do the work. Here's what I will say. I invite anybody to walk alongside me. Spend an intentional week with me. Learn how I do it. Don't just talk about it. Don't point a finger at me. Don't say that you don't believe me or trust me. I'm inviting anybody, community-wise, organization-wise, King County, all of it, to walk alongside me. You will see a very different narrative.
Kristine, thank you so much for joining us. And in fact, can I take you up on your offer, and can I join you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you after the show, and we'll set something up.
Great.
Because I would love to see it.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
That's great, and that's what our community needs. You guys have a wonderful day.
You too. Kristine Moreland, founder and director of The More We Love.
Before we leave out of this, Ursula, I got to say, just listening to her and trying to understand where she was coming from, and I wish we had more time. But I will say, the part that just got me at the very end is she says, instead of pointing your fingers at me,
you're exactly right.
Come on.
Yes.
And come walk alongside me.
Yes.
And come and see what I do. You see, when folks talk like that, that's right there. That's, as Marshawn Lynch used to say, that's about that action, boss. You know what I mean? So I like the way Kristine closed it out at the end.